Raina Reyes here for the Richard Reyes Foundation. The goal for Richard Reyes Foundation is early screening can save lives, knowing that it's good to know what other people have gone through and applying that to ourselves. So looking forward to chatting here today with Mark and Lisa Mead. Mark, you've got a story for us. Tell me what happened.
When I was 37 years old, I was enlisted in the Navy. I'd been in the Navy for 12 years. My father had passed of colon cancer. They found it so late in him that it was in his liver. Gave him a year to live. He lived a year and a half and he passed. So at 37 years old, they found it in me. I was in a Navy hospital in San Diego, 24 hours while they did tests. After 3 days, I was told that I had colon cancer, stage 3, and that I would not be able to be in the Navy anymore. A couple of days later, I'm talking to a commander, which was my oncologist, he's my doctor. I asked him, I said, I guess I'm going to have to give up smoking, which I wasn't really overly thrilled about at the time. He says, no, at this point, you can pretty much do whatever you want. I said, really? He says, yeah, you got about 3 years to live. And so I suggest that while you feel pretty good, to do whatever it is you want to do. Now, you got to remember, I'm 37 years old. I ain't 70.
And you had children and family at this time.
But I had 3 kids. My oldest was a junior in high school, and my youngest was still in elementary school. And I was in San Diego, and they were in North Carolina.
Now, the military took action at this point, isn't that right?
Yeah, they took over. They said, so what we're going to do is we're going to medically retire you. Mm-hmm. You can get a retirement for about $1,500, which was even at the little bit of money I made, wasn't that much. Or you can go through the VA and you'll be 100% disabled. And that was for about $2,800, which was more money than I'd made the whole time I was in the Navy. I said, I'll be taking that button. We'll be sending you home. So I leave. This is in 1998. Obviously, the doctors were wrong, I'm guessing. Went home. Moved back to Florida and kind of set up a life knowing that, you got 3 years to figure it out. And I'm pretty convinced at the time, what I really got is about 2 years. Mm-hmm. And then things are going to drastically start not being so great.
Now, you took treatments, right?
Yeah. When I got to Lake City, it had been about a month since I've been evaluated. I can never remember if it's 5FU or FU5. That's the chemo that they were putting me on.
Right.
I was scheduled to do it for a year.
Okay.
I read something in an article, talked to my oncologist at the time, and I said, I read this thing where you could take a much harsher chemo and it's got a better recovery rate. And it all looked like I was that candidate. Mm-hmm. So I did 6 months of the 5FU, and then I did 6 months of this other one. The other one was really not fun, but I did it. God did my ear, and they said, okay, you're good. And you don't have to do chemo no more. And we're going to do lots of colonoscopies, and we're going to do lots of CT scans. And, you're going to get real used to doing these things. And what they meant by that was for the next 3 years, I did a CT scan 3 times a year. I did a colonoscopy for the first 2 years every 3 months. And then nothing happened. I was fine. And what I did in those 2 or 3 years of retirement, I had 3 things that I really needed to take care of. The number one thing was my family and my friends needed to know what I thought about them and how I felt about them. Now, that was probably just me because I had just spent the last 12 years in the Navy underway. In 12 years, 10 of those I was on a boat. And those 10 years on a boat, I was in the Persian Gulf 7 times. So a lot of my friends and family just knew that Mark was in the Navy doing stuff. And a lot of the stuff, about it, you figure out the dates. Mm-hmm. And so I made it my goal to let them know what I thought and what I felt and what kind of person I thought I was, so that especially my kids would know that, and let my mother and my stepfather know how I thought. Because at 37 years old and a third of that time being away from them, I wanted to make sure that they knew what kind of adult they had raised. Now, fortunately enough, one of the things about this cancer is that you are generally given some time so that you get the privilege to let them know that. Mm-hmm. The other thing, I was raised a Baptist. I'm a Christian. I believe in God and I believe in Christ. And I'm not ashamed of it. And I'm not trying to push what I believe on you. But I don't know anybody that's in their 30s that doesn't have questions I said, you know what I got to do is they seemed like little questions to me that needed to be answered. I was going to pick up the Bible and I'm going to read this joker until I figure it out. Sometimes it wasn't quite that simple. And the answers that I got may not be the answers that you get, but I got the answers that I needed. And the next thing, and this is something that stayed with me and still is with me. There's things that if you're the miracle I got to be, I'm the person that when given the year or the 2 years or the 3 years like I was given, it's always sitting right here on your shoulder, always. I still remember in that first year or two, there's feelings that a lot of people don't know. My initial feeling when I came home, just send me to Montana or Vermont or Canada or somewhere because I don't want to drag the family through it. Just let me go crawl off in a little hole, but those feelings are there, they're real. And I've talked to other people in my situation. I got an uncle right now, same conversation I'm having right now, same one me and him were talking about just last Sunday.
Take me back to the anniversary of the third year. What did you do to celebrate the third year?
I went to work.
Okay.
Well, here's the deal. The VA gave me my 100%. That's plenty to live on. But Social Security also gave me about $900. After 3 years, Social Security said, hey, guess what? You still living. We're not giving you $900 anymore. Wait a second. In 3 years, I done worked up bills that I need the $900. I got to go back to work. Damn. The whole time when I was in the military, they said, what are you going to do when you get out? So I'm going to go work for the post office. So I go drag all my 20 years with me and add 10 more years to it. I'll be making money all over the place. Yeah, I don't get the money because I didn't do my 20. So I went to the post office. And the good thing about that is about 5 years ago, the VA came to me and says, hey, due to the person that's in power right now, actually might have been a little longer than 5 years ago, he's decided that we will be checking all medical records and validating and making sure that percentages are where they should be. And although mine were written at 100%, not up for review, which means I should have never been reviewed in the first place, I got reviewed. And after a year, because they got to give you 2 years to adjust, they said, you don't need to be 100% anymore. We're going to make you 20%. Ooh. I said, wow. Fortunately, just at about the same time I made regular at the post office. What I made at the post office, what the VA gave me, same thing. So all I had to do is make sure one of them I didn't need anymore. And I made enough. So, I did that. I went from $3,000 a month to $300 a month. So we're not talking about a minor adjustment in life. The bonus is I'm here to tell you I'm 60. The not so cool bonus is that multiple amounts of money that were expected at this time are not here.
Yeah.
And I will be working a little less than what I thought after today, but it was very feasible that I would be working until I'm 67 years old. And I just got finished talking. The answer to all that is if you want to hear God laugh, tell him what your plans are for the future.
Yeah.
Because I had doctors give me 3 years. I've been turned inside out, backwards, forwards, every which way. I'm still here.
Now, you and I live in the South, and we always hear, people in the South say, coulda, woulda, shoulda. So what's your maybe top two coulda, woulda, shoulda during this journey?
I'll be honest with you. I've done. This is the only thing that I could really tell you if you wanted to coulda, woulda, shoulda was the one thing that I learned more than anything. You always hear when I was growing up, there was always that guy at work that says, if I had $1 million, I wouldn't retire. I'd keep on working because I got to find something to do. Mm-hmm. And back then I thought he was on drugs because if you gave me $1 million, I was done. I was out. I'm not working, right? When I found out, to be honest, I can live my lifetime, your lifetime, your child's lifetime, your grandchild's lifetime. And if you give me enough money, I can stay busy every single day. And the reason I don't have any in a woulda, coulda, shouldas is because I got enough money to do everything I want to do. And if you give me some more, I'll find something else to do.
There we go. I like it.
My only limitation is the lack of money. I keep shooting for the lotto every day. But
well, gracious. Well, thank you. Last question for you in relation to screening. Now, you were incredibly young at diagnosis. Did symptoms take you for a screening, or were you told to get screened, or was it a military screening? What led you to get checked? Basically, my body shut down. And what I mean by that is that I couldn't go to the restroom. Understood. My military medical record was so thin that even after my 12 years in,
everybody on my ship thought I was faking because I'd never been sick before. I'd never been sick call. I'd never been
37.
anything.
Yeah.
But halfway through a cruise, they had to helo me off the ship. After 3 days, I was perfectly fine. When we got back, about 4 months later, everything stopped in me again. Then everything was fine 3 days later. And then the last time I went to medical, told this guy, I said, I don't know what's wrong with me. Same problem. He didn't actually believe. He thought after all of this that all I was trying to do was get out of the Navy. And I looked at him and said, buddy, I just re-enlisted a year and a half ago. I ain't on my first enlistment. So they sent me in front of God and everybody. They called an ambulance down the pier, in front of ship's crew, the ship beside me, and everybody, just to try and embarrass me and so to do it. That's how I was initiated that day. And I can't tell you how many times he's apologized since then. And I got to tell him, I said, it's not your fault. You're not a doctor. And that just makes him really happy. The number one thing, and it's true, you hear it on the commercials when they talk about cancer and they go into kind of programs that you're seeing here. Test early.
Yeah.
What I mean by test early, my kids have been tested at 25 years old because I was so young.
10 years younger, they say. Yeah, they say 10 years younger before the parents' diagnosis, right? I think it's kind of.
And then when they went, they said, oh, you don't have to come back till you're 50. My oldest daughter just made RN. She's 37 years old. She's gone 3 times and she's went to schedule it at the hospital she's working at right now. So you're not due to 50. We're not going to do it. She says, I got to go to another hospital, and gave them things. She says, you still don't need to go that early. She says, I'll be here at 40, and my son and my daughter all go through it.
Yeah, I also.
It's inconvenience for 2 days.
Same. When Richard had the scenario, obviously I'm not blood related, but I wanted to get it at 41. They said no. They said you don't have family history or symptoms. So in your daughter's scenario, I have family history, an immediate family history. So that's where they are supposed to have said that they would make the exclusion, is my understanding. But
I took leave in the last year of my father's life. He was still healthy, still fine. He was on chemo. He was weak. We were sitting at the kitchen table. He cut his finger, and I went to take a napkin to wipe blood up off of the table. And he about had a heart attack. I said, well, it's all right. I'm not cut. It's not going to hit me. He says, I don't know that. And neither do you.
Yeah.
And that's all I needed to know. Doctor told me, he said, kids need to do it at 25 every 5 years. And that's what they do.
Yeah.
I go to the VA that knows my problem, that's treated me since 1998.
They still say the same?
Every time I go to a college, you don't have to be here for about 5 years. I said, I'll see you a year after next.
Yeah.
You don't have to. I'll be here in 2 years. And I get CT scanned once a year, and I get a colonoscopy once a year. So that every year, one of those 2 things are happening.
If you could say something, say to Lisa and the kids, what would you say?
I love you. That's it.
But they already know that because you told them, right?
And the best thing about it is I know it. I know they know. That's all I care about.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, thank you again, Mark, a modern medical miracle in the world of cancer survivors. You're in good company. Obviously, connected with the Richard Reyes Foundation. You met Richard, and there's a slew of other survivors. In fact, what Richard's been doing recently is going on 5Ks. We started just walking them, but the first 5K he went on was a cancer survivor 5K. And one of the women there said, come here, we're going to sign you up, because he told her he's dealing with it. She said, we're going to sign you up on the survivor list. He said, no, you don't understand. I'm dealing with it right now. She got kind of in his face. She says, you're going to beat this, and we're going to see you next year on our survivor list, and you're going to be running as a survivor. I'm signing you up. So she drags him over to the booth and signs him up as a survivor. Well, this upcoming June is the annual anniversary of that first race for him from last year, where he will be running, not walking any longer. He's started running more. He will be running as a survivor. So there are tons of other people in this scenario that are going to be thrilled to hear this. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're going to sit around and die? Are you kidding me? I got plans to do a walk in Spain for the Camino. It's going to take me a month and a half, and every penny I got. And let me tell you, I'm a short little fat fella, so that month and a half of walk will about break me to nothing, but I've got plans for it.
I've heard of this. Is this where you walk and then some people have their home open and then you keep walking and you stay with different
across the country?
It's cross country. Start in Pyrenees Mountains in France and we'll walk across basically Spain. We're working on the retirement money for it.
That's exciting.
But
well, I'll officially close this out. Mark, Lisa, thank you so much. And Mark, I'm glad to know you as a survivor decades in, after having been told 3 years. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.